All right, guys, good morning. Welcome to an episode of Coffee and Comics. Maybe that's what I'll start calling it when we don't have the rainy Sundays. But welcome to Coffee and Comics. I come to you with my Ramones coffee cup with this pleasant aroma of coffee. And it's a nice sunny day outside, so I'm probably going to be going out later today to enjoy it. But before we do that, we'll just start off our day right with showing off some comics and vinyls and stuff that I bought over the last month or so. So basically, what I'm going to show is from Gmart Comic Books at their online comic book store in an actual comic book store if you live in Chicago, where I'll order online. I don't buy that many new books. A lot of my stuff is back issues and things like that. But yeah, it accumulates to about $85. I get free shipping. They are super short staffed, so it took a little bit extra long to get this. So this ended up accumulating to $125 worth of stuff over the past, I don't know, 7 or 8 months. Um, and Yeah, and at 35% off as well, because if you pre-order, you get 35% off. So that's how I get a lot of my newer stuff. Plus, they replaced a few things that came into my previous order. That's what was so cool, because I've been dealing with them since about 2001, and I've had 3 or 4 orders where some stuff was damaged, especially over the last since the about 3 or 4 years, amazingly. So they replaced some stuff, and that accumulated also. Then I hit a few flea markets. I hit an Ollie store and an antique shop, and found a few things here and there over the last month. Very cheap, very cool. 50% off on this guy's comics and stuff. So what do you say we just jump right in it? Let me know if the sound is all right. We are still getting used to a new microphone. And I think I finally figured out the settings and stuff, right? So anyway, what do we want? Do we want the vintage stuff or do we want the new stuff? Do you want the vintage stuff or the new stuff? Let's do the vintage stuff first, right? Okay. So basically, I was there from the get go back in the 2000s when Bill Willingham's Fable started. I read the previews, the whole concept of all the fairy tale people, creatures having to come to the Mundy world, us, the real world, and hide out and live amongst us and stuff, because there was an adversary going through the fairy lands and stuff, just demolishing them and taking them over. So they were all refugees and stuff, right? So I was there from the beginning, got that number one. It was through Gmart also. I got these monthly, read the monthly and stuff all the way up until the early 40s of the issue. So over, almost, was that 3.5 years of following this book and being like all excited about it and talking about it. And it was hot for a hot minute and things like that. And then they showed who the adversary was. And unfortunately, Bill Willingham and a lot of people did not know that his adversary pick was not in the public domain like all the other fairy tales, right? The original adversary was going to be revealed to be Peter Pan. And I started guessing that because he hadn't shown up in the book. No great detective skills. So anyway, he found out he could not do that because a court had made an exception for an orphanage that they get money to keep the orphanage going from Peter Pan. So he had to change it, and he made it Geppetto. And I completely lost it and rage sold all my Fable books on eBay. I own it. I don't really regret it. Since then, I do have number one. I've got probably about 45 assorted issues of Fables, but thanks to Ollie's and half price in stores and flea markets having trades for $1.50 and stuff. Probably this shelf here, I've accumulated a lot of Fables, and I have one more trade here, number 21 from Ollie's. This is second to the last trade, where it ended at 150. 150 of Fables was so huge, it's actually its own trade. Okay. And then, of course, they've come back in the last year. I think he did 12 more issues, so that'll probably be released also with those 12 issues. Fables, I think Bill Willingham actually won an Eisner for writing Fables one year, became best writer, I think. I'm pretty sure Alan Moore didn't have anything going on that year. Anyway, but it's a fantastic book. There was a ABC show called Once Upon a Time or Once or something like that. I remember watching 1 or 2 episodes, and I'm like, they have totally ripped off Bill Willingham. And apparently, he was gracious enough not to really have too much negativity to say, nothing real negative to say. Good for him. Good for him. So we'll put that over there. But one more trade, and I'm actually doing a rereading. I'm starting with trade 9. This is around issue, I don't know, in the 50s. I remember Fables very well up until the 40s when I rage quit and stuff. So I'm kind of picking up and reading forward. I've read assorted issues here and there, but we're doing a reread all the way through to the end correctly and stuff, right? That's where we're at. That's why that's in there. I've already had having that. If you saw me, I can't remember if it was I think it was last year. If you remember that I went to a flea market last year, I found almost all the trades for $1.50 a piece. And we had the usual band of suspects showing up this morning, man. John C. JLS Comics is here. Good morning. Great to see you. Michael Gallant, what's up? Nice to see you. John C. is here. Good morning. And everybody's saying good morning to each other, man. Everybody, it's coffee and comics time, right? So cheers to you, right? So one of the things I actually rolled my eyes up at in the 90s because of the glut that came in. I usually don't like trends. I'm not real trendy. I'm real cantankerous, I guess, or whatever the word is. And I don't think cantankerous, but I just have this thing where I kind of go the other way when something is trendy. But that caused me to miss out on quite a few good things, right? And I have this Wizard special, Good Girls of the 90s, that came out in the 90s. And I was flipping through it and I was seeing these artists that were working on some of these books and stuff, right? And now I have an appreciation for it now that I'm out of that. And the glut of the 90s, you really had to pick and choose. There were a lot of books coming out, a lot of crashing and burning going on with these companies and everything, right? But one of the things I should have known to God, because it had Esteban Maroto doing this in 96. If I had known that, I would have picked the book up. But we even had the good girl trend at Topps Comics come to Zorro. Okay, so we got a femme fatale thrown into Zorro. I had a little bit of a problem with that, messing with the messing with the legend there. You know what I'm saying? But this is fantastic. I mean, it's exactly what you think it would be. But I have a Lady Rawhide #1, and I flipped through this last night, and I love it. I think it's fantastic. Pirates, TNA, a little bit of TNA here and there, tongue in cheek, if you will. Just fun. You know what I mean? Just a fun book, some fun art. So did I miss out? Maybe not, right? But I'm having a huge appreciation of some of these companies from the 90s that went out, didn't really last long. Tops, of course, is from the people who make the trading cards. They got into the comic book business. Jim Salicrup, editor of McFarlane and the McFarlane era of Spider-Man, if you will, was like editor in chief on this. And they did a lot of great stuff in there, right? So it's kind of cool to be able to go back and pick these up. Now, these were 50% off at the little section of the antique mall that I found out of this dealer. So it was really cool. Oh, Easy Comic Reader has shown up. Good morning. You guys might have some fun with me because this is probably the first cup of coffee I've had in like 4 days. I can already feel it juicing me up there, right? So I went through, and most of these are 50 cents a piece, and some of these are upgrades, and some of these are nostalgia, and some of these are just books that I really enjoy reading, and now I can have like my reader's copy, right? But I was one of the people that was right there, 12 years old, enjoying Crisis on Infinite Earths, knowing that this was something I had never seen before, nobody had seen before. We know what Crisis on Infinite Earths was, right? So I was like on board with it, bring on the change, and we're going to have this one DC universe and everything. And I was one of the few people that just did not buy the reasoning that people coming into comics couldn't comprehend having different characters from different worlds. This is Superman of Earth 2. He's from the 40s. I didn't get it. I followed it, right? So I was on board with it. And then we get all the way to the end. We had the Flash die. We had Supergirl die. We had all sorts of people die, right? And I'm just sort of on board with it, a little shocked, I was collecting Barry Allen Flash at the time, you know what I mean? For years before all this happened, everything, Trial of the Flash, for, Death of Professor Zoom and all that. So then all of a sudden we get to issue 12 and we have Robin of Earth 2 and the Huntress of Earth 2, Batman and Catwoman, the Golden Age version's daughter. And I'm like, they're in a world where they don't belong. There's one world now and stuff. So I'm reading this. I'm like, wow, what's going to happen to them? And they kill them by having a wall and some shadow, anti-monitor shadow creatures come at them and stuff. And all of a sudden I'm like, This may not have been a good idea. I love how I make it all the way to issue 12, and then I'm like, I don't know about this, right? Anyway, but anyway, when this all was said and done, we got a little bit of a catch up on some characters that were created solely, more or less, for Crisis on Infinite Earths. Lady Quark, Pariah, and where'd she go? Harbinger, right? Great George Perez cover on this, I believe. It should be a Perez cover. Yeah, he inked and drew it. So this was a little follow up, and for some reason, I remember getting a kick out of this and rereading this. I still have my original copy I bought off the stands in '86. Actually, I remember it's the last month of school that I got this, so it's beat up. So I was very happy to find a newsstand edition that's in mint condition for that. Right, nothing's going to blow you away, but some fun stuff there. Right. Found out I double dipped on this, the first appearance of Arak and a great Mike Grill Warlord cover. And I tell you what, there's something about 81 and 82 or whenever they were doing this that I don't understand. I know they were trying to do something cool with the covers, give you information and stuff, right? But there's a George Perez Teen Titans cover. They did this also. But as you can see, the cover does not, the great, fantastic Warlord art does not fill the entire cover. And we get this insert. They did the same thing when they were bringing in Captain Carrot or something or whatever it was on a Teen Titans issue, right? And I just feel like it's a waste of art. It's just ironic that they have like a great cover that would really stood out on the stands if it took up the whole thing, right? But of course, we have the return of Claw. Warlord started sticking in these books, these characters that had suffered due to the great DC implosion of 1977. Claw, OMAC, bringing back OMAC. Jim Starlin had a run in this. And then they were also bringing in like Baron Earth for first appearances. And this one has the first appearance of Arak. I almost spent $20 to get almost a full run of Arak out of this guy's section of the antique mall, his little lot there, because they would have been 50 cents a piece. And the whole concept of Arak is that it's a Native American Indian where it's reversed in history, right? The Europeans did not come over here. He went over there and started dealing with things that were in Europe. Of course, it was Roy Thomas and stuff. So he ended up messing around with Greek gods, Greek monsters. It sounds like it would be pretty good. You know what I mean? So anyway, his first appearance, turns out this is my second one. I really have a thing about the first 50 issues of Warlord. What a lot of people don't know, and what I recently found out by getting some vintage comic fanzines and stuff, is that before Teen Titans came out by Wolfman and Perez, Warlord by Mike Grell was the number one book selling at DC. Think about that. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Warlord is the number one selling book. What a time. Oh, what we got here? Good morning, Easy Rita, Easy Comic Reader. Good morning. I picked up some Lady Rawhide recently for the Adam Hughes cover art. Exactly. Some of that stuff is, like I said, cream rises to the top, man. I'm gonna have to change the show, like I said, to Coffee and Comics. It's a shame that the trade dress takes away from the great Warlord art. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So anyway, like I said, better stuff is coming, guys. Right. But I am so close to finishing up all these Baxter series, right? Around 83, 84, whatever, grain of salt. DC started coming out with these higher quality paper books, and they would also just be at the direct market, the comic book shops to pull them in. And you had Omega Man, Infinity Incorporated, the new Teen Titans, and I'm sure there was something else. It's it's early, man. So anyway, but I'm like 2 issues away from having all the Infinity Incorporated. I have all of the Legion of Superheroes, right? I have all of the Teen Titans that came out in the Baxter series. So I'm sitting here like, might as well finish up the Omega Men because they have, they're 50 cents at this guy's 50% off bin, right? So I just went through, got a few issues I didn't have. Now, the magic of this is that I don't think it's a great series. There was some fun on it, right? You had nobody really stayed on too long. You had Keith Giffen playing around on it, Doug Munch playing around on it. They let the letterer Todd Klein come in and write a few issues of it. And it ran for like 30, 8 issues maybe, and had some Crisis tie-ins. And of course, they turned around and had it tied to the Teen Titans with Marv Wolfman. And of course, they had debuted in Green Lantern right before this with some great George Perez covers, right? Now, the amazing thing about this book, and it's no secret, this isn't an epiphany, right? But if you look at all the characters in issue number 1, I think I'm going to be 12 issues shy of having a complete run of this, okay? Of course, this series is hot because it's got Lobo's first appearance in number 3, and then scattered appearances by him. And then when you get around to issue 37, it's the first Lobo story. So Omega Man is sort of hot for those Lobo issues. Plus, I'll show you one of them. It has 2 backup features, like 26 or 27 or something like that, by Alan Moore. Okay. So anyway, but what's amazing about this, if you get issue 1, and by the time you get to the end of the series, all the Mega Men are dead and been replaced as they go along. That's the thing about this book. It's a Strike Force Mortuary, if you will. You know what I mean? Like we who are about to die and they didn't know it and stuff, right? So I've never read the complete run. I probably read like 10 or 12 scattered issues and stuff, and they're the ones that have to do with Crisis and the Teen Titans and Starfire and things like that. So anyway, I'm like, might as well finish off the Baxter series. This is just going to be some fun stuff to read. And like I said, yeah, I mean, they even have this fantastic special issue by Joey Cavallero and Alex Nino. I mean, it was just, they threw anybody on this book, you know. And I'm an Alex Nino fan, right? But they had some classic cool covers that you'll see in advertisements. This is one of the issues, number 26. So I think it's 26 and 27 that have Alan Moore backup features, little one-shot stories to do with aliens and stuff, right? Real simple stuff, very 2000 AD feeling if you like that stuff, right? Number 29, and then the Green Man. There's actually a character, number 37 has they had a character named the Green Man who was an ex Green Lantern with the Omega Man, which was supposedly a big deal, right? Yeah, just some fun stuff. A little corner of the DC universe that's sort of complete on its own. Probably just, if you know what's going on with Crisis and Corinda and things like that. So yeah. So yeah, we're just going to finish up becoming a completist with this stuff, right? Okay. So something I could not believe I found for 50 cents was Justice Society. I'm an Earth 2 nut from going back as a kid, right? I'm also a Dr. J fan. And when I see this, is it Jack Davis that did these? But yeah, this takes me back to my childhood, man. I was a Dr. J fan. I watched Dr. J. Didn't realize a lot of this stuff was in reruns on the television when I'd find it. But I watched Dr. J basketball games when I was a kid. I watched Muhammad Ali, Frazier, all those greats on television, thinking they were like modern. This is like 79 and 80. And that's back when, I don't know if it was a worldwide of sports. I don't know what I was watching on television, but I didn't know these were from the mid to early 70s when I was watching them as a kid, right? So anyway, I love, this is why I have a soft spot for the Bronze era, even though with DC Comics, I feel like their best Bronze Age books had nothing to do with the superhero stuff. Get your Swamp Thing, your horror books, your House of Mystery, your caveman books that they had coming out, your Tarzan by Joe Kubert and stuff, right? But when it came to their superheroes, it was a crap shot. So they brought back All Star Comics and they started doing a modern Justice Society with the debut of Power Girl and pulling Star Spangled Kid in there and stuff. Paul Levitz, Wally Wood, things like that. So I was really surprised to find a pretty decent copy of All Star Comics number 67. Now, going way back for you guys that like the storytelling, but in 1978, I was in kindergarten. That's why I remember the year. There's a town called Raven, Virginia, that was right down the road from where I was living at the time, right? And every Saturday and Sunday, they would turn the entire town, which was a huge parking lot. It's a dump, don't get me wrong. You can actually go back and see the town in my video where Little Howler Mouse bought his comic books. I'll show you the street, the first street of the dump. And sorry for anybody watching this that lives there, but let's be real. But anyway, but you would go down there. It was a huge flea market. And as a screaming little kid, I would see things and be kind of cool and just be taking it all in, right? And I'll never forget it. This guy had a huge cardboard box, which I pretty sure is what a washing machine came in, and he had cut it in half to where it was probably 18 24 inches, somewhere in there. I remember looking down there and I remember seeing a ton of comic books just in there. No bags and boards or anything. They're just stacked in there and they're rolled and things like that. And they were all-star comics and all other comics. As I got older and I started seeing these golden age books, it turns out in 1978 I saw a cardboard box big enough to hold a washing machine in, full of golden age books that I think the guy was selling for a quarter a piece at the time. And of course nobody would stop and let me look because it was hot as hell and everybody wanted their hot dogs from across the road. It's haunted me. So, I have an issue, you know. So thanks to what I found out, I had a talk with one of my friends the other night, Tim Anderson out there, and I asked him about this thing I was seeing coming up on eBay and recommendations and stuff, right? It was Marvel Fanfare number 40 by David Mazzucchelli. I don't remember who wrote it, but it's a you can go to Comic Book Kayfabe. I ended up looking it up Thursday night after my buddy told me about it. Cartoonist Kayfabe, whatever they're called. And apparently this book is hot because they put it on there, but it's number 40. Well, I've got it in a box. I'm not going to dig it out, right? Because I'm slowly been getting those issues I'm missing from Marvel Fanfare, which comes to about 12 issues also. You see why I'm becoming a completist. I'm noticing I'm having the same thing, right? So one of the things I think about is Weird World. And I'll go ahead and tell you the David Mazzucchelli Angel story. But I think Ann Nocita wrote it. It never stuck out to where I thought it was anything special. I was a David Mazzucchelli fan, which is why I have it. But what I think is Marvel Fanfare, if I remember right, these were a lot of this stuff was leftover stories, leftover pinups that they didn't go forward with or didn't have a place to publish it. So they were sticking to Marvel Fanfare, which I think was a book that was quarterly, right? So a lot of the stuff was just projects that got started or things that they went ahead and had done. Basically it's leftovers, which is nothing wrong with that, or experimental stuff, right? But so I've been, oh man, there should be another issue here. I didn't bring it down, I bet. Anyway, but I've got a Charles Vess 3-part story with the Warriors 3 with a great Loki cover. I needed the last issue, so I got that off of eBay. And in the meantime, I filled in the gaps for Marvel Fanfare where Pratt Broderick and I think Mike Plug might have done one of these issues. Where in 24, 25, and 26, we got the leftover from the 70s Weird World story, which is also in the trade. Now, I have issue 25, and the reason I have 25 is that it's got pinups by Dave Sim of Cerebus fame in the 80s doing Marvel characters, just pinups, 5 or 6 pinups, which I thought was very cool. So we also have this book, supposedly number 24. Someone has marked it as a key in my CLZ app because it's the first time that Carol Danvers and Monica Rambeau meet. And I'm like, that's not really a big deal. So, but like I said, this is just fun stuff from the 80s that you would get. And of course, it was sold at direct market. And you just never knew what you were going to get with it from time to time, right? It's kind of cool to have some variety there in your collection, right? I cannot believe I did not bring down that Loki issue because it's a beautiful cover by Charles Vess. I think it's number 37 if you want to look it up. All right. Now, these were very cool to find. If you are a Legion fan, wake up, open your ears. If you are a Whitman fan, Whitman Editions fan, wake up. You might get a kick out of this, right? But I went back and forth with buying these, but they were half off. I'm glad I waited. They're just $3 a piece, and some are in better shape than others. But I do have a thing about Whitman variants because I would get the little 3-packs when I was a kid. And there were little mom and pop 5 and dime stores around here where you would find these 3-packs all the way up to 1985. I don't know what year some of these packs came from, but everybody would buy them and they would just be sitting around from the 70s and stuff up to about 85, right? And if I had known, I would have probably grabbed more, right? But anyway, for $3 a piece, we have some Bronze Age Whitman variants. Justice League, this is probably in the 150s because it has Ultra in it. That's the thing about Whitman variants. They didn't give you the number, right? This is the first comic book, and I still have it over here. The first comic book I bought with my money, not from the uncles and stepdads collection and things that were, lying around the house. This was bought with my money, and it's from the Raven Drug Store that I was telling you about. And the fact is that those 3-packs, as I've put together over the years is that he would pop them open in order to make an extra 20 cents. They were 40 cents a piece. They were in 3 for $1 bags, and he popped them open and sold them individually to make an extra 20 cents. 40 times 3 is $1.20. So yeah, I was really confused, right? So this is my first comic in an upgrade because I have read the other one to death when I was a kid. Yeah, but like I said, a bunch of Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. I'm a huge Legion of Superheroes fan, almost all eras, up until the Bendis era and the Mark Waid, Barry Kitson era. I can pretty much handle everything else, right? Zero Hour, I'm all right with. But like I said, the Silver Age and the Giff and the Levitts are my two favorite. The first appearance of a character named Infinity Man. Hope these are showing up all right. And of course, I'm a Mon-El fan from being a kid. There's something about Mon-El that I really just thought was kind of cool. You know, spends 1,000 years in the Phantom Zone until they cure his lead poisoning. Um, I would like to do a story where we find out there's a little bit of a conspiracy with that. So oh man, Easy Comic Reader remembers the boxes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I was a kid, and that's always haunted me as I got older and learned more about comics and saw some things. Right. Okay, so I found this. I think this ended up being $1.50 as well. And this is from 1962. It may not blow you away, right? But there's a certain charm to some of these books, right? I found the Rocky and Bullwinkle Friends and Fiends or something, #1 at Comic Con, Heroes Con, I mean, at Heroes Con. And then I found this, and it blows my mind when I see books like this and nobody has grabbed them. But this is from 1962, and of course, it is Walter Lantz, Woody Woodpecker. I think it's around the 80s, somewhere in the 80s and stuff. But this is an oversized issue. Despite the discoloring, it is in fantastic shape. Just a great vintage book. Sometimes you got to have a variety in your collection for it to be very rich and for you to have an appreciation. Cartoon books are something that I as well would buy Super Goof and things like that. Characters I liked, but I didn't really grab them and look at them for the story editing and the story techniques and the telling of the stories, right? Until Bone, Jeff Smith's Bone came along. And that's where I started having an appreciation I should have already had for like Carl Brooks and things like that, right? So there's a lot of great storytelling techniques that are in these stories if you're into the craft of the comic. You know what I mean? Like I just completely overlooked it. You know, it had to be edgy and superheroes and superstars and very indie artistic stuff. And then all of a sudden you start realizing that all those great Donald Duck stories you read as a kid that could stay in your memory were so good because of Carl Barks, things like that. Okay, let's take a break. I'm going to show you two vinyls I got. And if you're from the 80s, I think this one is going to be kind of cool for you. If you were an MTV nut when MTV was very cool, because she had her own TV show and then she was in a few movies and things, right? And she actually had a few videos from this album. Uh, Everybody Run, The Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun, Because I'm a Blonde, things like that. I like them big and stupid. But this is Earth Girls Are Easy was actually a song, but I found Julie Brown's 1984 vinyl, 20% off of this guy who had a lot of overpriced vinyls, in my opinion, right? For the condition that they were, the records are in great shape, but the covers and stuff. This happened to be one that's almost perfect, right? So this is Julie Brown, Goddess in Progress, and they must have really got behind this album and shot the video for Homecoming Queen Has a Gun before they released the album, because that's right out of the video and stuff, right? But it amazed me when I got on here and started looking at the songs that are on here. This is more of an extended LP, is really what it is. But it's got about 5 songs on it. And Earth Girls and Easy ended up becoming a movie about 3 or 4 years later. And it's such an ode to the B movies that if you watch the movie, you're going to find out that the beefcakes in the movie for Gina Davis and Julie Brown are, oh my God, it's Jim Carrey. Why am I going blank? Jeff Goldblum and Wayans, one of the famous Wayans brother. Oh my God, yeah. So apparently all that had been in the works since about '84. So good for her. And then of course she had her own TV show that I would actually be dating somebody, and if it came on the television, I would ignore my girlfriend to watch the show because it was hilarious, right? The Julie Brown show or something. Of course, you had downtown Julie Brown also, uh, who was infamous for winning a world championship disco contest around in the late 70s, going on to become a DJ, a VJ on MTV. You're watching, she does an interview with Billy Idol, and you're watching her pick her up. And then she ends up getting drunk so she can pose for Playboy. Now she does a lot of podcasting or DJing or something. She's still around. But anyway, there I go, just sort of reminiscing. Let's put that to the side. And the other vinyl I got, I've already tried to look this up on YouTube. I'm going to have to spend some more time because a lot of people are playing the record and they're just putting their phone on there. They haven't done anything to transfer it to a MP3 or anything. But for $7 from Peter Pan Records. And the reason I picked this up, I put it down and I picked it back up, is because Peter Pan Records are, of course, for kids. And as kids, and I was one of them, we threw our records around. We would listen to it, toss it to the side. We didn't always put it up, and we weren't always gentle. So when you find these things, you really need to look at them to check out the condition of the record. This one is in very decent shape. So it's two Fred Flintstone stories from 75. Um, on record. And I dig that stuff. I was there, had our little portable handheld record players, a bunch of 45s, and I just remember listening to Disco Duck all the time. So I'm backing up. I'm backing up on a few things, and I'm keeping an eye out for Wizard magazines, right? I have over 175 issues of Wizard magazine over here in a box. They're also over here on the bottom shelf. That I collected as they came out. And now I'm kind of backing up, and I'm seeing now that I have this CLZ app, and you can actually get on Wizard and load them up with your comic books. I'm seeing that there's certain issues I'm missing. And I'm like, how is that? And then I'll turn around and I'll see the covers. They had multiple covers for a lot of these Wizard magazines, for you that don't know. But I'm seeing how, like, I had that. There's an issue with a Wolverine on it that I swear I just saw 2 years ago, but it's not in my collection. Little things like that. Then there's times where I didn't get the cover that I wanted, right? And so we go with issue 42 of Wizard. Yeah, 42. This is out of my collection, and this is when Alex Ross was becoming the superstar, and you were just getting everything you could get from him. And he did 2 covers for Wizard magazine, one with the Silver Age heroes. Okay. But I wanted the villains. I'm of the villains. You know what I mean? Like, I'm more fond of storytelling with the villains than a lot of the heroes most of the time, right? So the other cover that he did looked like this. This is going to be hung up at some point and stuff, right? But, Hobby Lobby had both of these prints, the heroes that I just showed you and the villains on there. So I went for it, right? And I always say it, I'm not harking on these spec channels, right? On these FOMO channels, there's more what they are. Because everybody, when they put in their top 10s or whatever, depending on who you're watching and stuff, top 5, top 10 and all this stuff, people really do, if you're paying attention, people really do automatically get on eBay and everything else is ignored. So you end up getting these great prices. And I ended up hitting the watch on eBay. I'll just watch it, put it in my watch list. And within 24 hours, I usually get a email stating that the seller has decided to send everybody that's watching it a discount if you buy it now, if you accept the offer, right? So I ended up getting this for next to nothing, a bagged issue 42 with all the villains in it, right? Now you're watching this and, it would be great to entertain you and be spectacular, stuff like that. But this makes me very happy because I really wanted this, and for it to be bagged with everything that's in it. I still have this Lady Death card that came when I bought this one, right? I still have all this stuff, right? So it's really cool. And then it blew my mind when I saw what year it was, 1995. We are at that time where 1995 feels like the other day. But we're going to go even further with this next thing I want to show you. 1983, 10 years old. Absolutely not to be, sometimes we're not going to overshare, but 1983 was like the worst year of my young life. We're talking grandpa died. We're talking thought I escaped from something and ended up back in there. Just really rough, man. Right. So what did we have at that time to like comfort us and stuff? One of the many things, Muppet Magazine. So specifically this issue from 1983, summer of 83, right? So if you know anything about some of these magazines that were coming out, even the Life and the Time and the news and magazines for adults and stuff, they're pretty flimsy. The paper is very cheap. They would any kind of moisture in the air, like you could be drinking a water across the room, and that would be enough for it to separate from the staples and stuff. I had Muppet Magazine. I got every issue in my mind that came out for 2 or 3 years. And I found another issue on eBay, but I found this at a flea market and talked the guy down from $5 to two because it has a little bit of a musty smell. I've already put in a dryer sheet in the bag to start getting rid of that. But this was my favorite issue of it because it is Star Wars. It is E.T. It has an interview with Isaac Asimov. It is the Muppets. And it's 1983, right? So yeah, I mean, they returned the characters that they had on the Muppet Show when Mark Hamill guest hosted when The Empire Strikes Back came out when I was 7. So this was everything. This is fantastic for me to find this and replace this because again, I literally remember having to throw this out because it had disintegrated to nothing. So yeah, that was a cool find at the flea market. A lot of nostalgia hitting this week of stuff I'm buying. Right. Okay, so we're going to put that to the side. I'm sure there's other things I could sell. There's all kinds of things around here, right? So here's what we got left if you're in for the long haul. We're now into the Gmart comic book haul, the very box they sent this stuff in, right? And there's some thick hardback and some trades in there, so it's not as much as it looks. Probably, if I had to guess, 18 items and stuff, right? All right, so let's all take a minute to drink some coffee, and I'm going to look at the chats, see what's in there, and we'll finish up with this because it's a beautiful day outside, and we should all go enjoy it. All right. Oh, John C. Whoops. Downtown Julie Brown. Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, believe it or not, I still have some Playboys down here. And I think I might have hers. Of course, I got them for the articles in the 90s, and the rock stars that popped up, like the Kiss episode and stuff, right? Purely for who can we, for the boobies, we know it. But anyway, okay, so some relatively new comics and stuff, right? Is there anything that's going to overly impress anybody? I don't know, right? But I get so few comics. I say I'm probably buying less than 20 new comics a year if I had to guess, for real, even with what's included in here. I think last year I counted up and it was 27 new current comics is the way to put it, right? So anyway, some of us have waited 30 years for this, right? I was able to get a hold of a few issues of Miracle Man when it's coming out through Eclipse, probably in like 88, 89, here and there. Some friends of mine had some. And ironically, yeah, who knows? I don't know if that's the word. But in 1993, the very night before I go to basic training for the Army, I'm staying at a friend's house, spending the night there. Everybody's sort of saying goodbye, and it's kind of like a mini party. Things calm down, and they decide to show me Full Metal Jacket for the first time the night before I go to basic training. Funny, right? So everybody ended up like passing out, falling asleep, or whatever and stuff. And I look up on the shelf, and my buddy has a full run of Miracle Man at the time, and I fly through them. Somehow I read all the issues in about 2 hours. So I was just feasting on them. And then it ended, if I remember right, uh, Eclipse went out of business and we never got the ending of the last story. You know what I mean? It just sort of like hung there. You're like, what? And if you know the saga of this, I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube videos. The rights, Todd McFarlane, Neil Gaiman, who had them, who owned them, what happened. Todd McFarlane published a few issues with a Miracle Man character in it, maybe not, things like that. And then sold to Marvel, and Marvel completely drops the ball. So instead of waiting 20 years, we had to wait 30 years. Put that in your cap, right? To get the ending of the Miracle Man story, the last one by Neil Gaiman, right? And I got to tell you, man, I'm a little underwhelmed with what I'm seeing here. I'm actually going to probably end up doing a critique, but I want to read the whole story. This I may actually do a review video, but you don't hear everybody having Miracle Man mania like they did 10 years ago when they heard it was coming back and we were finally going to get the end of the story, right? So, young Miracle Man from the '60s. I can't remember if he made it to the '60s, but we'll definitely say the '50s has come into the real world, the modern era, where a lot of things are accepted now that weren't then. Plus, his hero, Miracle Man, seems to be worshipped as into some deviant stuff in his opinion and things that he doesn't approve of. He's in culture shock times 1,000 and things like that. And this is where we get a little heavy-handed. I'm waiting to see where the story goes to see how young Miracle Man can have such a fragile psyche that Miracle Man reaching over there and giving him a little kiss on the lips made him go ballistic and run away to the Himalayas and be on the run. You know what I mean? I'm like, some of the stuff is a little heavy handed, a little bit insulting to think that some people can be that fragile. Then again, we're talking about somebody who has popped out of the 50s and they're in the 2000s. And I guess that would be fragile having the one last thread of something that feels familiar blow your mind. I really got to think about it, see where the story's going. But yeah, the use of homophobia to push a story along does not sit well with me. Now, that comes under the critique of that's not a critique, right? That's I wouldn't have done it that way, but I think it's a little heavy handed and a little too on the nose, considering it's written by Neil Gaiman, right? So, before I destroy the storyline and make sure that I have not have hype and excitement of 30 years of waiting for their end of the story since about 93, 1993, a whole other century. We're going to get a little perspective. Okay. We're going to finish the story, read it with an open mind, and just sort of be like, I have a feeling Neil Gaiman I know Mark Buckingham has done tons of new art for this. Like, I think he redrew a whole issue, but I have a feeling that they've thrown in some modern time messages in there, to move the story along that probably weren't there in the early '90s. You also got to remember this is when Neil Gaiman was becoming a superstar. He wasn't already a star. But I love my Miracle Man. Uh, I like it. I actually like the idea that Marvel calling him Marvel Man and having to, for legal reasons, for Marvel and switching the name to Miracle Man improved it. I really think it improved it. I think it was one of those happy accidents, right? So here's something I sort of think I bought by accident, right? So when you get online and you order this stuff, pre-order this stuff, they got a subscribe or pre-order button on some of the on the website on beside some of the comics as you go down, right? And I have a feeling that I meant to get one issue of this and I hit something and subscribed to it before I caught it, right? I should have been more vigilant, right? But for you guys that don't know, Wesley Snipes came in and has helped out with the comics, a comic book, right? They had Keanu Reeves do it with Berserker. They say they come in and work on it. Sure. And right now we got Jamie Lee Curtis coming out with one of a horror story that she wrote or something, right? But Wesley Snipes came in here to this company and he did something called The Exiled, and it had multiple covers for the first issue. And of course, I had to get the Blade Runner one. I'm such a Blade Runner nut that I had to have this. I'm going to stick it with my uh, the Android Stream Electric Sheep collections that's down here somewhere. It might be up here now. I moved it around up there. But I'm a Blade Runner fan, right? I have the Laserdisc. I have the VHS that I kept. I have all the cuts of the movie, and I can watch any of them. I think it's just fantastic. But when my order came in, I had some extra issues. I think this is an extra number one. I don't know if this was their mistake or mine, but when I got to the number two, I had to get in there and I realized, yeah, I clicked subscribe instead of ordering that one issue. So I had to get off there, right? Something like that. I caught it at some point, but I don't know how I got an extra number one. I think that was a mistake, right? So anyway, I'm sure that if I end up reading this and finding out that The Exiled by Wesley Snipe is actually good, I have no doubts that I'm going to be able to back up and get the rest of the issues. Could be a happy accident. Who knows? I don't know. So one of these books has been replaced by Gmart for having it come in damaged, and then we got the number two. And as soon as they mailed these to me, the number three came out. I feel like I've been waiting forever, but I'm one of the people that is very forgiving about stuff that Frank Miller has been putting out the last couple of years. Right? He's older. He's recovered from alcoholism. La la la. Things like that. So if something comes out and it's crap, I'm not going to like demolish it. I'm just going to move on. But if something else comes out and he's trying something different, I want to hang in there and check it out. Um, and I really expected a little bit more of this Frank Miller Presents company to be a little bit more big. It's got tons of marketing going on my social media. Of course, we know the algorithms listen to you and check out what you talk about and what you're checking out online. So maybe that's why it is. But anyway, he came back and we have Ronin book 2, where he's writing the story, and the great Philip Tan is doing some fantastic artwork in here. It is a decompressed kind of storytelling so far. Lots of big panels, lots of big art, which kind of follows the first Ronin if you read it. Pick up the trade by it and stuff, right? But we got number one. I've read it. I've seen tons of art that Philip Tan has been putting out there, and now we have book 2, if these are showing up. And book 3 has come out. It seems like, I don't know, this is on a quarterly schedule. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm not going to read any more until they all come out so I can sit down and read them. I enjoyed the first issue, but I knew what I was in for, if that makes any sense, right? This is why I don't recommend a lot of books. There's a lot of stories. I've been doing this for, and I'm sure other people do this also. There's stuff that I read when it came out, like in the 80s, if that blows your mind, or the 90s. And this is targeted. This is going to be different. Over the years, we've had things come back, especially from Frank Miller with his Dark Knight Strikes Back book and all that stuff. Some of the stuff that really was subpar, and Beyond Watchmen that I'm kind of subdued and stuff, right? So, and yes, there's some Marvel comics in here, right? I have 2 of them, and there's a simple reason why I have bought these. I don't consider the Miracle Man books Marvel, even though they're the ones putting them out. Okay. But I have issue 4 and 5 of these because it's Alex Ross. He's doing the covers for the new Fantastic Four book. And I'll be honest with you, I tried to read number 1 of this new series and it did not hook me. I don't waste my time. I move on. But he's done these great, fantastic black and white covers of each character on the cover, one at a time. And then with issue 5, we get them all back. And I cannot remember this person's name I'm about to mention. I actually want to say it's Gary Conway. I don't think that's right. But if you are a classic television fan and still watch that stuff or have the DVDs, or if you were even there, you're going to recognize this guy. Land of the Giants, I think. So for years, Alex Ross modeled Reed Richards after the professor on Gilligan's Island. And I actually know his name, but I don't care because he's the professor. And somewhere on the line, Alex Ross was watching some classic TV and saw this guy. And they actually ended up, I guess, contacting his estate to let them know they were going to start using his likeness for the Fantastic Four. That's how passionate Alex Ross is about getting this stuff right. So all of a sudden he saw that actor and was like, that's Reed Richards. I've been doing it wrong this whole time. So yeah, we now have 2 eras of Alex Ross Fantastic Four. The era of the professor, and the era of this dude from Land of the Giants. And normally, I'm pretty sure I will come back to comments in the future of people naming the dude because, I'm pretty sure his last name's Conway, right? So the next thing I want to show you is this inner turmoil of mine. I mean, I'm like, I know you're on the edge of your seat. I know you like the drama and stuff right here, but I may have to leave Gmart, and I will take you know, I will take suggestions on places to shop for my newer books online because I buy so few books. I don't think I need the hassle. I shouldn't have to worry. And I know some of these books aren't coming out on time, but I have definitely missed an issue or two because it was not in the pre-orders. I was even subscribed to it where they're supposed to pull it for me monthly. And apparently I've missed an issue or two now, and that kind of bothers me. And I missed an issue or two of this other one. So it may be time to move on because that's just too much of a headache, too much of a hassle. We're talking about ordering comic books. It's simple. I place the order. You put it in a box, like when it comes in, right? But I'm a Justice Society fan, as I have said. Jeff Johns, I'm a fan of his work, even though this era that he's been into, where he's trying to like write like Alan Moore or something, is a little jarring at times, right? But you know, I've got his entire run of GSA from the early 2000s. I got a ton of his Stargirl first. It's Jeff Johns. I got a ton of his stuff, right? Uh, he and I grew up around the same era, and he's actually put in stuff in his books all the way up to Blackest Night of stuff that I would talk on the back of the bus when I found it with some of my friends. I moved around a lot, but there's an era where I had some friends where we talked comic books on the back of the bus and what ifs and things like that. And he's actually put them in there. Anyway, there's this Justice Society story that he's putting out. Um, it's supposed to be a maxi series. I think it's going to be 12 issues. So here's issue 2 and 3. Of course, we have different covers for them, right? I thought the first issue was fantastic. I skipped his Stargirl book, but I'm ordering the trade of it. He came out with another, The Lost Children. And The Lost Children has to do with Golden Age sidekicks and stuff disappearing or people forgetting about them, and now they're popping back up. I saw something with Marvel in previews, and they're doing a story a whole lot like that, which doesn't surprise me. But anyway, but yeah, there's an issue or two that they didn't order for me. It's not on the pre-order, so I'm gonna have to back up and try to find these, which isn't as easy as it is for the new books and stuff, because comic book shops have been going out. People are getting out of the comic book store stuff, and with the new comics. And comic book stores aren't ordering that much anymore because they're not selling, so there's not a lot of extras out there with the new stuff, right? Here we go. Russell Johnson, the Professor. Yes, thank you, Easy Comic Reader. As soon as I saw the Russell, I was like, it all came to me, right? But yeah, he's always going to be the Professor to me, right? Yeah. I am proud to say that I do know Gilligan's real name, and I think the Skipper's real name also. So yeah, that we have that. And Radar O'Reilly, I know his real name. So the last two floppies before I get to some of the hardback trade stuff and everything like that, right? I posted this on Instagram. This was total feedback from people who watch the channel and follow me on social media. But I was told to check this out, and when I found out it was Paul Evans of DC fame, Galore and Legion of Superheroes and things like that, and Alan Davis, I was like, this is a no brainer. So they gave them a mini series to do with the Avengers War Across Time. That, of course, is a retro book. It goes back to their Silver Age and stuff, right? So I got 1 or 2 issues of it, read it. People were telling me that hell froze over because I got a modern book from Marvel and actually enjoyed it. It is what it is. It's very straightforward, simple storytelling. It's great. So I have issue 5 of this. I cannot remember at this time how many issues this is, but I do have to back up and find a few. But of course, I think issue 4 that I'm missing, they didn't deliver on. I don't know what the deal is. So of course, I'm gonna have to back up and find these. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I don't think this thing set the world on fire. I think everybody got excited when it first came out because it's Kong. And now that we've had some of the movies flop that Kong is in and all the attachments that come along with that, I think the Kong stuff has calmed down. At least it feels that way. But I'm so out of the loop. Who knows? I could be wrong. I just know that my circles of comic book fandom and stuff, nobody gives a shit. so, so this book here is a replacement because when they sent me the original, actually, I've already put the replacement on the shelf. This is the original one they sold to show you what they did. But when this came in, this was all bent up in the back and some of the pages were damaged. But this is the second omnibus of Grendel. They're taking the Grendel stories at Dark Horse. I think they've done this before. I'm not sure. These may be some kind of reissues. I'm not sure. But they're coming out with these great omnibuses where they're telling the Grendel stories, starting with Hunter Rose. But in the Grendel universe, they're putting out all the stories in chronological order. All the back and forth in the miniseries and all the back and forth and rewritings that Matt Wagner did. They're just putting them all together to where you can read these straight through and get the entire Grendel story, Of course, there's little things I'm kind of curious about that they're not going to put in here. Like I had my introduction to Grendel was in the '90s when they crossed over with Batman twice, and I feel like I may have spotted him one or two other places, but he never grabbed me. I have the first issue of this great Shadow uh, versus the Grendel miniseries that Matt Wagner did. The first issue was phenomenal, so I'm kind of keeping an eye out for that. I can't find the trade for less than $25 and stuff, right? But it may be worth it. I don't know. So I'm thinking this isn't going to be the complete Grendel. I don't. It will be interesting to see if they get any of the crossovers in these. That's my whole point of babbling on and on. But friends, since probably about 2014, I've had Scotty X, Tylox the Mighty, a bunch of other people in real life also, tell me I need to check out Grendel. You got to read it. You got to get in there. And it never grabbed me. So I've ended up falling backwards into tons of, I have the complete Comic Co series. I've ended up running into a few of the mini series completely for nothing. So I have a short box full of Grendel books, now 2 omnibus, and I will be getting the rest of them as they come out. Um, Trying to just like latch on to what it is about Grendel that's just that people love and stuff, right? I'm not there. It may just not be for me, but I'm having a good time. I'm a Matt Wagner fan. I'm actually liking this. I actually like seeing the experimentation and storytelling. I like the execution of the book more than the story, if that makes any sense. Um, yeah, there's some experimental stuff that he's done in there and stuff with the storytelling. Now, this book, if I have another regret, in 2016, I think I did a purge of comics. And the hardback book of Weapon X, there was a hardback that Marvel put out. I had an offer that I could not refuse at the time. That I figured, hey, I have all the Marvel Comics Presents issues. I can go ahead and get in soft cover, which I did. It didn't seem like a big deal to get rid of the hardback, And for some reason, it bothered me. I sold a bunch of stuff in that purge. I actually did a contest where I had a stack of trades about this big that I just gave away in a contest to somebody who, and the kicker of that is I had a lot of longtime fans on there. I might have lost a fan or two, but I had a viewer or two. I don't like referring. Let's get the fans word out of the way. I watch too many YouTube videos and that word gets in my vocabulary and I don't like it. But I had a lot of people who watched the show, the viewers and stuff, right? I think I lost a few of them because I did a live drawing and I'm pretty honest about most things like this, and so I did a live drawing and the guy that he entered and won, and he had a YouTube channel for a whole 5 minutes. We kind of knew he wasn't that big of a comic book fan, which is why he's not around any longer, I would imagine. But we were a nice bunch and things like that. And I had people who'd been watching my video for years and people who had comic book channels that at the time had been going on for years. And the Dark Horse won the trades. And I think there's a few people that entered that contest I haven't heard from ever again. So that's why I don't do contests. So, but anyway, sorry, I had a little bit of rambling, right? But anyway, I had to get this softcover trade of Weapon X. I remember buying Marvel Comics Presents on the stand, wondering why people were not going nuts over that book at the time, right? It was in a Food City store. It was in a grocery store in their magazine section. And I went back and I ended up getting the entire thing off of there every week. Marvel Comics Presents came out weekly. And I was just blown away how this was not being like, why is this so easy to get? Later on, it would get the acclaim, I guess, this was a storyline where people in the know knew this was something really special with the Wolverine glut that was coming out, right? So why did I get another softcover trade, right? Because this one has some extra stuff in it, right? This one has, of course, the Marvel Comics Presents 72 to 84. The history. This is the origin of Weapon X, not Wolverine. The origin of Weapon X, how he got the adamantium, and things like that, right? And it says 1988. God, I thought it was like 1990. So yeah, I was 15. Wow. Anyway, 72 to 84, that came out weekly. And then Wolverine number from 1980. Well, let me correct myself. I'm seeing what they did. I'm reading right off there. And what they've done is they're not saying the year those issues came out. They're saying the year those books started. Okay. So you know what volume. So anyway, Marvel Comics Presents, which started in 1988, 72 to 84. And then the Wolverine series, volume 2, that came out in 1988, they're all the way up to 166. And they had the Uncanny X-Men, and they say 1981 because that's when they added the Uncanny. Number 205, and I'm pretty sure I have all those issues. But 205, Barry Winslow Smith would come on and draw and color and ink and everything most of the time. An issue of X-Men seems like one a year. Life, Death 2, and then a Wolverine story. And then I know he popped up and did something else. And it seems like, yeah, Barry Winslow Smith would pop up on the X-Men maybe every 12 issues or something. I never really tried to put all that together. So anyway, we have everything that has to do with this story tied into this soft cover. All right. As you can tell, I really enjoy this, right? I really enjoyed what Barry Windsor Smith did in this book, right? I became a hardcore fan in the 90s thanks to Valiant. I mean, I liked Windsor Smith stuff. I got the artistic versions of it. He has some of his stuff in Epic Illustrated was some of the first stuff I saw, and I had a real problem with how he drew faces. That drew me nuts. He and Jim Aparo, I love their art, but I couldn't stand their faces. And then around the Valiant era, probably right before I turned 20 or something like that, it all just clicked with me. So yeah, good stuff. Now, hopefully, I won't lose the rest of you on this one, right? So, I don't know how much of an international crowd I have anymore, right? But in the 80s, one of the things that makes me feel very nostalgic, and some of the things I've been able to get uh, are choose your own adventure books. They were all over the troll books. And then TSR put in their action books where you would do sort of a choose your own adventure, but you would need a pencil and a six-sided dice, and you had like a rudimentary little character sheet that basically you were just controlling your hit points. And depending on your decisions, you're doing a campaign by yourself in the guise of a choose your own adventure book. Hopefully, people watching this know of choose your own adventure and know the glory of it and can experience it because it's very fun. I have an issue of Unwritten, a Vertigo book that came out in the 2000s, I believe, that I still haven't read. That was impossible to track down because he did the comic book version of a choose your own adventure story in that book, right? So apparently in the 90s, I heard about this but it was more of the Judge Dredd thing. I didn't know anything else about it except that they did an action book like that with Judge Dredd. And it stayed in my mind because I accepted that I'll probably never ever see it. I don't even know if it's real. I don't even know if it's true because I'm in Virginia. And you're telling me something that happened in the mid 80s in England. Like, how would you know? But just I just I hear these things, they stick in my mind, and so imagine my surprise when I'm going through the pre-orders and I read about the Dice Man with new art, well, from 86, but new art for America. This stuff has not been reprinted according to the previous issue ever again. This is from 1986 with a hardbound 2003 printing where you do an action story where you need a dice, a few little rules on how to do a battle, and a choose your own adventure style. Dice, you need two six-sided dice, a pencil, a piece of paper to do your health. And you go through these and you have a ton of modules here. This is many, many, many books where you have one Judge Dredd story, Steve Dillon art, Kevin O'Neill art, Pat Mills, Brian Talbot, a bunch of those 2000 AD guys, and you're your own judge and stuff. And this is new art that's never been reprinted. And then they end with an actual character named Dice Man. I think there's 6 little adventures in there, right? So that's the quickest way I know to do it. Now, I probably will be doing a video on this if I enjoy it, and I don't expect anybody to watch it. You know what I mean? Like, if I flipped through this, fell in love with some of the art, had this nostalgic wave come through me, like, this is so cool, and I feel like I have found buried treasure. Yeah, I'm going to be a 50-year-old man with 2 six-sided dice. Hold on. And just to kind of show you why I am like that, I was a D&D guy in the 80s, you know, with my campaign. Got out of it because everybody got older and went off to colleges, moved away and whatnot. And then in around 93 or 94, I had White Wolf games introduced to you, and I still have my dice. These are the actual dice. I think the blue ones are left over from my 80s campaign, and the clear ones are from where I picked up in White Wolf and stuff, right? So, yeah, the black, yeah, these three are from the 80s. This is all that's left of the 80s. Oh no, I got to roll for initiative. I hope I won. But anyway, the blue and the black are from the 80s, and the clear ones are from the 90s. And they're actually getting a little bit of a yellow tint that they're so old. So, yeah, I find these every now and then. They just kind of float around any comic book room I've made over the years if I've left, right? So, yeah, that's why I'm going on and on about this, and I'm kind of gushing and stuff, right? I have found gold from the 80s, authentic 80s gameplay that I have never seen, know nothing about, and just heard about in rumors maybe once in the 90s in a comic book shop. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how you get me, right? So yeah, there's no way this is going to suck for me. So I feel very confident about it, right? All right, so we're going to wind it down. I'm going to have to find this dice and see how many hit points I'm going to take because I know I didn't win initiative. That's the danger of dropping dice. You're just playing with fire if you're not careful with them. Hopefully, I'll be here next week and nothing terrible happens. Hey, we have Comic Crack that popped in here. Fighting fantasy books. Still got a stack of them. Love them. I've acquired a few. I had like 2 or 3 I still had from my childhood and stuff, but I've acquired a few over the years and stuff, right? But never enough is what I'm getting at. That's never going to be enough, right? I probably have a stack like that. I can imagine what you have, Crack. I'd love to see him sometime. I collected Marvel Comics Presents off the rack and loved them. Yeah, I did too. I didn't have the mindset of trying to get every one of them. It depended on the team. You know, what's in the book. You had 4 stories to pick from with us 4 teams. I know I rabidly made sure I got the first 12, So guys, it is now 10:09 in the AM. We have spent a lot of time together this morning. Thank you for looking at my stuff. Thank you for the comments. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. And hey man, be excellent to each other. Have a great day.